Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Riggin, let's talk about the Crab Bank Seabird Sanctuary. I have trouble saying that whole thing at once. I know it was a public-private partnership, and can you talk about the public-private partnerships, both in this case and others that you see in your state, and how they really help to get the completion of the projects?
Absolutely, happy to. So when we first started with the Crab Bank project, we had a short timeline. So we were in 2019, and we had a feasibility report that gave us an estimate of what the total cost of the project would be, which would have required the state to have $1.4 million sitting, waiting, and ready. Given budget constraints, we figured out we needed some help. And so we also already had conservation interest groups like the Coastal Expedition Foundation, which is a nonprofit arm of a local ecotourism outfit, the Coastal Conservation League, Audubon, South Carolina, that had the expertise to help fundraise. And under the state's statute, we have something called the Non-Game and Natural Area Statute that allows the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources to receive funds for the purpose of non-game management. And so we utilize that funding opportunity under that existing state statute and the expertise of our conservation partners to help us rally within the community to help leverage additional funds to bring to the table, so that we were sitting, waiting, and ready for that $1.4 million had that been the ask of the Department of Natural Resources as the non-federal sponsor. Mm-hmm. In addition, as we were on that short timeline of just 12 months, Audubon, South Carolina went out and applied for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant to help supplement funding costs as well. And that was a 1-to-1 match ratio. So that was a $1.4 million ask that we all had to come up with a $700,000 match. Mm-hmm. So pulled that all together to have enough funding that we needed, plus that allowed us to springboard future projects from that existing pot of money that we've now created as the Coastal Bird Conservation Program. So Crab Bank was a starting block for that additional funding to go further for shorebird conservation.
Right. I'm sure, Mr. Eichenberg, you've jumped through a few hoops yourself to try to figure these things out, the public-private partnership portion.
Senator, it's a key part of where we are today with Everglades restoration. Certainly the Corps working with the non-federal partner, in this case the South Florida Water Management District, but bringing a multitude of other stakeholders to the table. I want to applaud the Corps for allowing those differing voices to be heard and to be taking that feedback. I would submit to you that this issue, restoring the Everglades, has become a national model. Thanks to the Congress in 2000, you set out a plan. We know this. We know the problem. We have a solution, and we're working in a collaborative way to make sure it's successful.
Would you say, are there any, I'll go back to Ms. Riggin, are there any additional authorities that you feel that would allow the Corps to better assist non-federal partners? The reason I think that's important is for the examples that you all put forward, but we have heard some rumblings sometimes, having dealt with the Corps myself, sometimes needing a little bit more assistance for them to be able to help their non-federal partners. Did you find that was a challenge or not? Are you finding that?
I didn't really find that was a challenge from the CAP 204 perspective. I think, planning assistance with the states program, which is something else that the Corps does, that would be another avenue where they need additional support to provide help. I know within the Charleston district, there's a long list when the state comes to the Corps and says, hey, I have an interest and need your expertise on these items. I think that's an area that probably additional support could be given to help them address a lot of the planning assistance for the state's request.
Does anybody else have a comment, Ms. Bailiff, on that particular issue? Any other authorities the Corps might need to better assist non-federal partners?
Yeah, I think that I certainly agree with Ms. Riggin. One other thing I would add is that additional resources for the Corps once the Civil Works project is complete is sometimes very useful as things come up over time with these ecosystem restoration projects. To be able to continue to work with the Corps on them and finding solutions can be quite a useful exercise. So I would add that. Thank you, Senator Capito.
Thanks. Mr. Eichenberg, do you have any other? I have to go to another hearing here, and so I'm going to apologize. I'm going to leave after I hear from Mr. Eichenberg.
Senator, any opportunity where the non-federal partner could maybe get out ahead on a particular portion of a project, the Corps has demonstrated a willingness to let the South Florida Water Management District do that, and it speeds up the implementation. So we appreciate the Corps at least willing to do that, and if there's additional authority to allow that to occur even in a greater manner, we would certainly support that.
Thank you all.